Well, howdy there, folks. James, Political Friar, coming to you again. I got the Baylor law hat on today, and so we're going to have a legal topic. It's an interesting Supreme Court ruling in an emergency session. The Supreme Court overruled a federal court's injunction preventing the Biden administration from removing obstacles on Texas's southern border. So the case is arising out of Governor Abbott. Governor Abbott has said, well, if the feds aren't going to enforce the border laws the way I, as the Texas governor, want them to, I'm going to enforce them myself, which is a pretty clear violation of the Constitution. There's a clause in the Constitution called the Supremacy Clause. The Supremacy Clause says that where federal and state policies or laws or really anything conflict, the federal policy supersedes. That means the state policy is null and the federal policy replaces it. And so if the federal government wants to put up a border barrier, even if California doesn't want them to, well, the feds get to. And if the federal government wants to take down the concertina wire and the traps in the Rio Grande and Texas doesn't want them to, well, the feds get to. This is a foundational bedrock principle of our government, in that the federal government has the superiority over the state's governments. And we have had this fight through our history. There was the nullification crisis where South Carolina decided to start nullifying laws that President Jackson and the Congress passed, and that didn't fly. President Jackson shut him down. And then the bigger one was the Civil War, where we had southern states decide that the federal government wasn't going to be the boss of them. And it turns out the federal government is the boss of you. And then we have the integration fight, with Brown versus Board of Education and Governor Wallace standing on the schoolhouse steps, stopping black kids from coming in. And then the 82nd Airborne turned up and says, no, you don't get to do that. The federal government is supreme. That is literally the same issue that we're dealing with this Texas versus the federal government case, which is to say that the Texans are attempting to assert their state rights to control the sovereignty of their border. And some part of me is a little sympathetic by that. After all, they're the ones who are affected by it. And the federal government says, no, we make policy for a country the size of America, not a country the size of Texas. And we're going to do what the whole country wants. And it's not really on the merits. I don't think it's a close case. So why was it 5-4? Why did this decision come down with Barrett and Roberts joining the liberals and the other conservative justices saying no? And it's because of the procedural posture. So let's talk about that. This was an injunction. An injunction means that you have to prove a couple of things, but primarily you have to prove that there is ongoing damage that is not reversible and a high chance that you will win if the injunction is litigated. So what you have now is one element. Does the federal government support actually get to control the border, or does Texas? That's the likelihood of winning. And the answer is the federal government gets to. So likelihood of winning, check. Is there irreversible harm being done by allowing the injunction to remain in place? Well, close. Harm is a interesting word because from a certain point of view, the balance of harm would say that they should leave the border impediments in place, right? And so you now have a shelter for the conservative justice to say, yeah, Texas is going to lose in the end, but is there irreversible harm from just letting them win in the short term? And the answer, gosh, I kind of feel like I want to side with the minority in this one. Like maybe the first element where you're saying, hey, they clearly are going to lose in the end. Maybe let's just rip the Band-Aid and get it over with. But I'm not sure that there's irreversible harm by having border impediments on the Texas border. And so that's how you got a 5-4 decision. You had four Republican appointed conservative justices saying, no, this isn't so bad. This isn't so bad. We can just leave it until we actually get around to deciding this on the merits. And then you had the liberals joined by the responsible parties and Barrett and Robert's saying, yeah, but they're going to lose. They're going to lose. They should lose 9-0. Maybe Thomas will throw a flyer, but they're going to lose, and so why not do it now? But that is the explanation that you're not going to get from either your right or left wing commentators, because they're going to talk to you about how it was so close, how this is the right versus the left, and the left wing succeeded but needs to defend itself, and the right wing is almost there, but because of the procedural posture, it being an injunction, yeah, there's a really good argument that it should have gone the other way. Even if you know, like I do, that Texas was violating the Constitution by putting those barriers up on the border. Anyway, it's just thought. Let me know how wrong I am in the comments down below. Leave me a like. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it. And just know that I really appreciate you. Thanks.